I don't usually feel relieved when I finish watching something, but finishing Class, I've got to say,
it's so satisfying.
it is.
I feel like we've just served penance.
I feel like I've been punished for a crime I haven't done.
Yet. Allegedly.
I feel like I'm going to do crime if I ever have to watch Class again. However, I will admit, and I know I made this joke last time, but episode 7, I actually enjoyed.
Yeah.
I genuinely, not even taking the piss now.
It was
quite good. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't anything brilliant. It wasn't anything, won't go down as great of any sort of Doctor Who university. But for 45 minutes, I was sat there and I wasn't pissed off for the first time in 7 episodes.
Yeah, no, it was a very good episode. It was just about Quill getting the arm removed from her eye.
Yeah, basically the narrative is that it's Quill. Obviously, in the last episode we have all the kids
in detention,
where the big comet meteoroid, whatever
prison
it is,
thing.
And while she's off doing that, this is what happened to her, and it's a really cool way of just it's like the Doctor Light episodes you get. It's obviously something along those lines where they've had to split the cast up and have, right, when you guys are doing this, we're going to do this sort of thing. But I think it succeeded, to be honest. I think the design of the whole episode, it looks really nice. Like the sets and the just everything, like the costumes. It's a really good looking episode. It's really well directed, really well cinematographed. Cinematography.
The cinematics are great.
The cinematography was phenomenal.
That's the one.
But yeah, I love the idea of the metaphysical, because this episode is called the metaphysical engine, or what Quill did, and it's essentially the head teacher Quill and some new guy called Balon, who is a shapeshifter who has been posing as a Zygon, but isn't a Zygon, but is another shapeshifter because it's the same time similar.
It's a shapeshifter posing as a shapeshifter posing as a human. Ish.
Yes, basically. And they have this engine called the metaphysical engine, which is possibly the coolest concept they've done the whole series, and I wish they brought somehow into Doctor Who, because I would love an episode set where they're travelling through using a metaphysical, because a metaphysical engine essentially is a machine that allows them to travel to ideas and concepts rather than physical. I mean, they are physical locations because they become physical, but it's more like they can travel to think, well, what it would be like if we went somewhere that was like this, and the engine can do that. And they end up in the basically, it's the homeworld of the Arn, in it, the flowery place with the little thing. They have Balon's idea of hell and Quill's heaven to retrieve different things, because Balon is stuck in between two forms, which is cool. But I wish they'd sort of shown that a little bit more with the makeup. He's got a bit of scarring here, but that's it. He could
and
have
a different colour eye.
Yeah, and a different colour eye. But they could have done a bit more, making his face into sort of different shapes and things. I don't know.
Or flicker a bit more, but then I guess the budget for that would have been not there.
It's just an idea of something that they could have done to make it more obvious. But hey, anyway, so yeah, they basically go through and they need to get different bits and pieces so they can remove the arm from Quill's head and make Balon, our shapeshifter, back into shifty shaping.
Yeah.
Shape-shifting, shifty shape. So tired.
Yeah, it's been a long day. So yeah, through all this as well, we get the head teacher getting sparked out by the goddess of the Quill, I believe. And then while she's there, down for the count, the Balon and Quill have a little bit of a deep chat. And Quill's like, oh yeah, well, I mean, I was a warrior, my husband died in a fight where I got arrested, and then I've been a prisoner ever since, and the worst part is I'm used to it.
That was a really good scene, actually.
Yeah, it was really good.
Because before that scene happened, I was sort of thinking, it's getting a little bit info dumpy now, it's getting a bit exposition heavy, it's getting a bit this is what happened to me, and this is a part of me, and this, and it's nothing's really happening. You get the action scenes, and then you get a breather where they basically describe all the information that we should have had sort of drip fed to us in previous episodes, which would have been way more effective here. But Patrick and S, you do what you like, pal. It's your show, or at least was. But the scene where they talk about that, and she nails it, Catherine Kelly, in that scene. She's talking about how that, she's been a prisoner all this time, and the Dorothy, the head teacher, makes it very clear. It's you'll either be free or you'll be dead by the end of this. And she's like, well, I don't really care, because my life isn't worth living if I'm not free.
Yeah.
Which is quite deep and quite,
Yeah.
And I love the idea of when they go into these different places, like the humour in this episode actually landed for me because it's subtle in this. You know, it's not just the whole like mushrooms. Oh, I did mushrooms, lol. It works. You know, like Balon jumps over this ditch to grab and Quill's just taking the mick out of him. But it's not like really sarky jiving. It's just, you know, it's quite a natural reaction to what she's seeing. Whereas other episodes have tended to go, mushroom flashbacks, or what in the Kanye, or something. I don't know. Some bollocks.
Yeah,
but
it was painful.
Yeah, but I loved all of that. I loved like I said, I love the design. The idea that as well that the metaphysical engine. They've got to give it a catchier name though, or at least one I can say. But I love that the idea of the metaphysical engine is taking them to like different versions of their respective afterlives, and it sort of puts them in that position of going, well, what would you even say if you could speak to your god?
Yeah,
you know, that exploration of faith and everything is really cool. I really like. God, I'm actually gushing about class. Have I on drugs? Have I done drugs?
I live in hope so, because this is not like you.
Have I done drugs? What is going on? I haven't done drugs, for the record.
But yeah, so as they're going through their respective afterlives, they are collecting little tokens for this ritual. They needed a dead Arn,
it's
or
like
the
a side
pheromones.
Quest,
yeah, it's like side quests and stuff for the big quest.
Yeah.
They needed a dead Arn for the pheromones. A little bit of a blood test sample from the big worm thing from Balin's hell, and then just casually throw in the head of the goddess of the quill.
Yeah. Which I think looked really cool, that design of the quill goddess thing.
I thought it was brilliant.
That was very cool.
And then you get the little elongated finger thing.
Yeah, that's one thing, because obviously they then go about removing. They think they're back in the school gym hall, whatever.
Yeah.
The only other set they have other than the classroom, because everything else is location. I'm pretty sure that might even be a location, to be honest. Probably is. But they then remove the, and I gotta say, right, I don't, right, this is a me thing, right, and I'm very good with sort of violence and stuff, on not, you know, I'm not beating people up or anything, but there is one thing that gets me, and that's anything to do with eyes. Anything close up with eyes in horror films is.
Yeah, this is, if you're not a fan of that sort of thing,
I don't know what it is. I don't know where it's come from.
I don't know.
Like my eyes are fine. I've never had a bad experience with anyone sticking anything in my eye. You know, I get hay fever. That's about it.
Yeah,
but it's just.
I mean, it was an awesome scene. It was a really cool visual.
because he like elongates his finger and like just basically digs it out, and it's coming out of your eye, and it's just like there's blood spitting everywhere, and you're like, and it's just as soon as everything else was fine, it was just the moment where you see the like needle like that close to her eye.
Oh yeah, no, that was like, a great shot.
Yeah, nah.
That was a great shot.
I'm gonna tap out. I don't like anything to do with eyes, but when his finger is actually digging in her eye and getting the thing out, I wasn't bothered. It's just the idea of the little needle about to scratch your corneas, like.
Yeah.
I think it's called a cornea, isn't it?
Yeah, probably.
I'm not a
biologists, let us know, please.
Yeah, if we got any opticians in the comments,
that one,
correct us.
Yeah.
Or optometrists.
Someone who knows eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously, Arn gets out. Quill can. I'm not going to read what I actually put into my notes for this one, but Quill beats the whatever's left after
I'm not reading that
either. To death, basically, if it wasn't dead already. Just to see if it's worked, I think, is the premise here.
I think it's to see it's worked, but also to enact a little bit of revenge on the thing that's kept her from, you know, her freedom and everything. So the first thing she's going to do, of course, is walk up and twat it, which he does.
Yeah, and then we get this
twist,
which is a romance between Balin and Quill, which...
Oh, I wasn't thinking of that twist.
No, it's coming up, though. But this is leading to that twist.
It is.
So you get this romance, they do the nasty, and I hate myself for saying that.
Yeah, well, I'm keeping it in.
Yeah, I know. And then the headmaster just kind of pops in after they've worked out, like after a few hours, I'd imagine. At this point, I don't know. I'm giving them some props.
I wasn't timing them. I wasn't thinking even really that great detail, to be honest.
You don't really get a time. It could have been seconds. You never know.
Does that count as 6? I don't know.
The headmaster then just pops up as a hologram and is like, "Well, I've been speaking to my superiors, and we're only going to save one of you. So, good luck." and it turns out they have to fight to the death. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, Law, this is your niece. Like, come on, family. You know you want to kill Quill." And it's like, "Oh, Quill, you can have your freedom back. You can get your revenge on everyone who done you wrong." And it's like, they just try and put them up against each other, which is sad because they have this moment, and it's just like, oh.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting idea. I mean, I think it was obvious that like mostly Balon was either gonna not make it back or die in some way or whatever. But yeah, they obviously have that quite cool looking fight on the beach, and then Quill ages a bit and goes back through the bumhole of she goes through the Cabinet of Souls, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Walks to school, blasts the thing that was about Yahoo, that's Mario, lasso Charlie. What am I doing?
It's one of them days. That's got to stay.
Was trying to lasso Charlie, and she shoots it, and we're back to where we left at the end of the last episode, where everyone's freaking out. They've argued with each other big time, and Quill's got her gun back. Except what we didn't see in the last episode is that Quill faints, and she is in fact up Lidoff.
Yeah, she is pregnant. And for those who don't speak French, she's ended up pregnant because time works differently in the Cabinet of Souls.
Yeah, it goes quicker. Her age doesn't hair grows when she grabs
just grabs her soul, and her hair grows, and that's how the pregnancy progressed. That's one way to deal with the fact that she's pregnant and everything. I guess that's one way to go around it.
What do you mean?
Like with the aging process, because it seemed like they were. It was
one of
those things, just like. I just feel that that's going to come into it somewhere, and then it did. And it was just like, yeah, it was one of those. For me,
overall, this for me,
brilliant.
Best episode,
definitely the best one of the series.
Yeah, all 8 of them.
Yes.
It's a shame that it's taken 6 episodes to figure out how they want to do this show, and it is a shame that it doesn't stick. But this on its own, I would watch this just like I'd rewatch this episode, not necessarily the rest of them. But I would watch this one again.
Yeah, and me.
That's the only one I would watch again, though.
I don't think I'm watching Class again for a long time until I've forgotten how bad it made me feel, and then I'm gonna rewatch our videos on this and realise not to do it again. But we do finally get on to the last episode of the show
called The Lost. Not the last. It's the last episode called The Lost.
Yes. We start off with April singing. Because
we need some atmospheric
happiness and stuff.
Well, she's not exactly singing a happy song, is it? It's all slow and somber because it sets the tone for one of the weirdest and most out of left field decisions the show does by randomly, brutally murdering Ram's dad. Next thing you know, as you said, he's been shish kebabbed straight through the stomach.
Just like Rachel.
Yeah, very traumatic for him. Ram even touches his disappearing
ashy father, I believe. Dusty father. just father stop. As he turns to dust.
There we go. Got there in the end. It's not just that; it's the fact that it was spoiled in the trailer. Though I saw when I saw Ram, you see Ram doing that thing across his dad's face when he's dissolving away,
and
it was in the trailer, and it's like. I suppose it doesn't really matter because it does happen in the first 2 minutes of the episode. But still. It's just. I just think it's a really weird thing to do. Not only narratively, but that means you've got to put all the really hard, upset acting on the worst actor in the show. Yeah. Who has to walk into April's gig going, "They killed him. My daughter's dead." He's not speaking. I don't know. Half of that could be the fact that the audio mix on Class is fucking terrible. But he is walking in, and it's like he looks like he's in pain, obviously emotional pain, but he looks like he's in He looks like he's been beat up and stuff, and he's like. Anyway, while all this is going on, Charlie, Quill, Matthias stuff is again much more engaging, because Matthias goes around to speak to Charlie, because they haven't spoken since it's been 6 days since the asteroid incident where Quill has been hibernating essentially because of the pregnancy, and Charlie's been watching after her basically. I've said basically really I've said basically a lot there. I'm sorry about that.
But basically,
honestly, so Charlie is looking after Quill. And Matthias is sort of going, well, it shows that you care. You know, you wouldn't be you if you didn't care about her a bit. And Charlie, you know, it's like, well, it's not like that. It's just we're the last of our kinds. You know, we're the only ones left, etc., etc. So there is a bit of that sort of not bond, but there's definitely that sort of thing that they have in common that keeps Charlie going in terms of looking after her and everything. Then, you know, we cut to Tanya, who's at home studying. She has a bit of like a stroppy teenager moment with her mum being like, oh my god, I'm not talking about my friends, I'm just trying to do work like you wanted me to. So after having a bit of a teenager-y moment with her mum, Tanya sort of, not throws her out of the room, but sort of is very, you know, much like, leave me alone. And your mum's you've been like, look, you're doing all right, like, you know, you're putting loads of work in and everything. And Tanya's like, well, that's what you want me to do. And then Tanya's mum gets kebabbed.
Yeah.
Kebab count of 3? 4? How many people have been kebabbed in the show?
Far.
And Rachel.
3, yeah. 3.
Kebab count of 3. Yeah, she gets absolutely just skewered. Again, for no real reason other than the fact that Korokainis is being like, I'm going to kill all the people you love. It's quite interesting though, I suppose, in the sense that it is quite out of the blue and it is quite shocking, and it does make Korokainis feel like a proper threat now, because he's not just being like, you know, because how many times in Doctor Who universe do we see, I will kill everyone that you love unless you help me? Whereas Korokainis is like, I've already started killing people you love, and if you don't help me, I'm going to kill even more people.
Yeah.
Like, it does, as a villain threat, it does kind of work. It just feels so out of the... Well, that's the point, I suppose.
It's like there's that bit, so a little bit later on, he's there with his sword round April's mum's throat, and he's like, look, April, you come with me, or I just continue killing everyone. I've already killed 2 of your parents. And then he turns to Mateus and's like, you're going to be number 5. And then buggers off. But he hasn't told anyone who 3 and 4 is yet.
Keeping them in suspense.
Give him
that. He's a bit theatrical.
This is where Ram gets a little bit too much again. He goes, dude, he said you were number 5. Why don't you want to kill him? Anyways, who's 3 and 4?
He's just, the delivery is just so... Like, it's not even bad dialogue at this point. I mean, sometimes in previous episodes it definitely has been. But in this, it's just melodrama. He's so over the top with it, and the way he just does his lines and everything. It's a case of just be subtle with it and it'll work better. But yeah, you know, it's quite an interesting point that, you know, he's killed 2 people, and then he makes the point of Mateus being number 5, so who's going to be 3 and 4? And it's obviously going to be April's mum.
He also threw shade at Charlie. Literally threw bloody shade at Charlie.
He's here all week, ladies and gentlemen. He's here all week.
I know.
Didn't take him long to come up with that one.
Yeah, it took me longer than I cared to mention.
Yeah, because Mateus and Charlie storm in with... Charlie's got Quill's gun, and he's maybe going to use it, and Mateus is just like, sorry, front door's unlocked. He's just... Mateus... I want a class spin-off of just Mateus and Charlie.
Yeah, no, I think that's...
I'd be happy enough with that.
You could have had a couple of these episodes just filler, I guess, in a series with it.
Oh, I just want Mateus and Charlie. I don't even care about the rest of them.
But no, Mateus is like, yeah, sorry, big alien threat. Everyone's about to die. Sorry, your door was open.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
So they sort of have a bit of a standoff with Korokainis, which leads Charlie and Mateus to go after Dorothy, the head teacher. And she, you know, reveals that she goes and sees a governess in the secret room that lights up when you open the doors.
She had a spooky key for.
Yeah. Which leads Mateus and Charlie to have another conversation about, you know, how this is the version of Charlie that Mateus is terrified of. And it's the reason that, you know, has been driving a bit of a wedge between the two of them. But Mateus opens up and he still says, well, yeah, I'm scared of you, but it's not changed how I feel about you. I'm still, like, crazy in love with you.
Yeah. Just don't go where I can't follow, like.
Yeah, essentially. And it's a really cool bit of scene. And, you know, while this is happening, April and Ram are doing April and Ram things, just sort of moaning and gazing at each other in the street, like, just being...
And crying.
Bit weird. So Tanya then turns up at Quill's house and you see a bit of a moment where Tanya breaks down to Quill, and, you know, she sort of, like, instinctively just leans towards Quill, and Quill sort of is a bit like... And she starts getting a bit maternal with her, sort of hinting at this pregnancy thing that's going on, and she starts to get a bit more... Actually, you're all right, you, Tanya. They then come up with a plan between the two, and then to force Charlie to use a Cabinet of Souls. So they take it to the school in an old lady's little shopping thing. And then... What did I say that
then Tanya goes looking to check on her brothers, thinking they might have been dead. And then Shadow King comes up and... Nearly slice and dices.
Could have been 4
yeah, could have been 4 and 5 kebabs.
But to be fair,
Quill
was quite interesting to see the USW Student Library.
that place has given me PTSD.
Did you even go to the library?
Yes.
No, you didn't.
I knew where it was.
It was quite weird. It did take me back to those long nights studying hard. Well, long afternoons anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I stay in there till 7 o'clock. Can you believe it?
I know. Yeah.
But yeah, that was cool. But then after this close call, Tanya basically asks Quill, goes, "Oh, can you train me to fight?" And Quill's like, "Yeah, sound. I've got nothing else on." So they have like one lesson, and Tanya basically just becomes a pro athlete and could take on anyone.
Yeah, and like Quill gives this brilliant speech about legacy, saying that a legacy is like humans, the gifts they get from their parents are constantly being given, and it's up to them to make their own legacy. And like the comparison between Quill and human, and a really lovely speech to try almost console Tanya, I think, to be like, look, use what your family have given you, make yourself better, like use that to drive you forward, but use it to go after your enemies as well. It's a little bit of a darker message than usual.
Yeah, and I can't tell if Tanya switching to like the whole like nuke the Shadowkin compared to the no, we can't kill April side. I can't tell if that's really forced or really natural, because I just don't feel like Tanya. I think Tanya's the least developed out of all of the characters. And I just think it's when you're doing things like that, you kind of need that, because she doesn't really feel like she's debating it. It's like, oh well, my mum's dead, I'm going to be a genocidal maniac now, and there's no sort of, because she hasn't really got a compass to know. With Charlie's got Mateus, and then Ram and April have each other, but Tanya doesn't really have that
moral
to bring her back.
Yeah.
So she's like, sod it, me and Quill, we're going to be busy mates and kicking ass.
Yeah.
So after this all happens, Shadowkin come round. There's loads of them. They're invading. They're slicing people up everywhere. Long story short, Charlie uses the Cabinet of Souls, takes them all out.
After shooting April, mind.
Oh yeah, he shoots April to kill Coracina, so they both die. He then becomes king of the Shadowkin, realising that the moment he goes to that Shadow Cabinet is that they're all going to go for him because they're going to work out what they're doing. So that's when Quill and Tanya start like just Jackie Channing it all over the place, like blasting them and pow, 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 pew, pew. Very strong reenactment. If you've seen the episode, I think you'll agree.
Yeah.
Then what happens then? Oh yeah, Dorothy she just sort of like buggers off out the way, goes to speak to the governors, and gets killed by a certain foe from Doctor Who.
Yes, the foe in question being the Weeping Angels.
Yes.
Or Angel, because there was only one. And then you got that really creepy look of the bloke governor just stood there like, yes, we promised the arrival would be good. Obviously, we don't get an idea of what this arrival was. They were setting up a lot for a series that was never really going to continue.
I think obviously they didn't know this at the time. You know, it could have been a runaway success if it had been aired properly and more people watched it and gave a shit.
But like the Cabinet of Souls, when that's being used as a weapon, looks blooming like it looked really cool. I really quite like that effect.
Oh, like that.
The shooty lighty things taking out the shadow.
Yeah, I've got to say that what did make me cringe was when they shot April, and as soon as the gun is fired, there's just another really sad song that kicks in like that. Like she's bam, and then like
and
straight away it's just cheesy song, and it's all slow motion as she falls, and Ram's like,
you killed her.
But the Cabinet Sultan is really cool. So the Shadowkin are all destroyed. Dorothy's been killed by the Weeping Angels. The governors are planning some sort of arrival linking to the Weeping Angels, and just when you think it couldn't get any weirder, April wakes up in the dead king's body. And roll credits. And that's the end of Class.
Yeah.
What do you think of the last episode? Obviously we enjoyed episode 7. Episode 8, what do you think?
I enjoyed the first half more than I did the last half. Just because I felt there was a lot more going on. It was that darker edge to it. It just did a bit more for me. And then you had all that fun stuff with Charlie and Mateus as well. But unfortunately, their stuff together couldn't save the second half for me.
That's fair enough.
I think, yeah.
I didn't enjoy it that much, but it's not the worst episode I've seen.
No.
I think there were some cool bits in there for sure. And I think there was definitely some promise. And I think if Class had had a second season, I would have still watched it. And I think if they just had a bit more structure and a bit more work on the characters and the dialogue, and having a bit more of a rotation of writers and doing a bit more creative things, like the last episode, use that as a template, do wacky and weird and strange things, like cool concepts, and just explore the concepts while exploring the characters. But it wasn't a terrible ending. I just think because it's not really an ending, it's obviously the ending to the season, but it would have been setting up the stuff to do with it. Because I read that there were plans for stuff for the second series, and it was a lot of it was around, exploring the origins of the Weeping Angels and where they come from, which I'm kind of glad they didn't ever get to do, because I don't ever need to see that the Weeping Angels work because we don't know enough about them.
You don't need to basically pad out their entire history.
It was going to be a full-on, they were going to go to the Weeping Angel home planet and everything.
A Genesis story of them. You need what we've got, and I kind of think what we've got with just the addition of Angels Take Manhattan, their cameo in Time of the Doctor. Basically, anything after Blink until the Village of the Angels, I don't think we needed from the Weeping Angels. I'd have happily had Blink and then seen them again in Village of the Angels.
I think what it is that it's a case of, because it the other appearances kept adding things to them rather than just having them as what they are.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. Yeah, it was just a bit. But it'd be quite interesting now, just because there is a they did talk about the series. We'll just have a quick look at them now as we're wrapping up, because I think Class Series 1 was a bit of a flop for me. I really didn't like the first 6 episodes, bar the 3rd episode I was alright. The rest of them I didn't get on with at all. But yeah, looking at what would have happened in season 2, it was going to be a civil war between factions of the Angels and everything. But it was supposed to be here. So it's something only comprehensible in a small way, with so much of it remaining a mystery, reminding us that there are paths that we're just never going to understand. There was also going to be a trip back to the 1980s at some point. Something called Time Capsule, where everyone gets blasted back to the 90s. There was also going to be other authors, including Juno Dawson and Derek Landy, so other people from the sort of young adult novel world jumping over to TV. And I think it really would have needed that, because doing 8 episodes of TV on your own for something you haven't quite worked out yet is a bold move, and it doesn't. Yeah. And I think here it really didn't pay off, because there were some episodes it's just like these just feel like they're being it feels like fan fiction, the way people are talking. It don't sound like they're real.
No.
But I think overall there were some bits I liked.
Yeah.
Episode 7.
A couple of bits in
episode 7. Yeah, it was just for me.
Well, episode 3 you didn't mind.
Yeah, I mean that was okay. I think the main problem is that it shifts halfway through from being Tanya's episode to the beginning of the Ram and April bollocks.
Yeah.
Which I really didn't like. And of course, Mateus and Charlie, that also was the most engaging thing for me throughout. I think with another series and a bit more structure in terms of a story arc.
Especially towards Tanya, because I feel she needs it.
Yeah, she was shortchanged a bit, Tanya, to be fair. But I think it could have been alright. But we'll never know, because it didn't happen. And if I put it into fractions, 3/4 of it was shit.
Yeah.
I was trying to be able to sort of work out. No, they were. And I'd say, if I were to give it a ranking, it would sort of be episode 7, episode 8, and episode 3. Everything else, episode 5.
Yeah, episode 5 definitely deserves to be down low.
That was the worst thing.
Episode 5 was the worst thing. Yeah, just horrible to watch.
I'd rather watch Orphan 55. Genuinely, I would. I would rather watch Orphan 55 than have to watch that 5th episode of Class.
Well, if you want to watch us,
do drunk if you subscribe.
Yes, because once we get to 100,000 subs, we are
1,000.
No, 1,000. Yeah, sorry.
Who does this man think we are?
We've only got 602. I have 2 numbers in my head that I stuck them together.
100 and 1,000.
Yeah, when we hit 1,000 subs, we will be getting rather intoxicated.
That's number one. With a special guest. As well, providing I can convince him to do it.
Oh, it involves drinking Doctor Who.
Yeah, it should be pretty easy.
Yeah.
Please like and subscribe and share and comment and all them things that make the YouTube
things.
All the things that make the YouTube gods love us and share our stuff around, and
we appreciate it. We appreciate you. Thank you very much.
I don't appreciate you though, because this whole Class thing was your idea.
Yeah, I am taking responsibility for
Get out
this
my
one.
house.
Unfortunately,
Bye.
I need to go to bed. So,
Okay.
bye.
Please get out of my home.